back across our studio now to Brandon Ritterman and Floyd Cerulli. Gentlemen?
Yeah, we've made a call on the controversial marijuana ballot question, Amendment 64. Floyd, we can safely say this is going to pass?
Yes, it is. It started ahead. It has expanded its lead up to about 6 points at this point. About 67% of the vote is in, so it looks like it is clearly going to pass. It is sort of amazing. It was ahead in the surveys or the polls, but for the most part, it never really got much above 50%. And often in ballot initiatives, that's a sign that the final decision makers could be negative on it. But no, indeed, it has held its 53% all evening, and it is, in my view, we will be one of the first states. We'll see what happens in Washington, I guess, tonight,
and Oregon.
But Colorado is going to be on the cutting edge of a recreational marijuana supplying.
Yeah, but 100,000 votes, in our view, just a little too much to overcome.
Right.
Okay. Let's also talk about the presidential race here. It's widening a little bit.
3 to 4 points.
All right. We want to check in with Chris Vanderveen, my colleague who's standing by at the Yes on 64 party. And Chris, as you just heard, we just called Amendment 64 passed here in Colorado. Definitely, I heard a lot of cheering in that crowd when we were talking to you just a few minutes ago. They're very happy over there.
Brandon, there was a lot of optimism here expressed about a half an hour ago when they really started to get the idea that Amendment 64 was going to pass. And now by 9 News calling it, Colorado becomes the first state in the country to legalize marijuana possession. It is a historic night, any way you look at it. I'm joined now by Rob Corey, who for years has been an attorney for pro-marijuana issues in this state. You've represented a number of people. This probably complicates things a little bit, but it simplifies things as well. What happens tomorrow?
Well, tonight is the culmination of many years of effort on behalf of people who love freedom. So what happens tomorrow is freedom increases in Colorado. And what happens tomorrow is Colorado is open for business also. This is an international movement that could come here to Colorado. This is the only jurisdiction to legalize it in the world. So people can come from all over the world to our state.
But some people worry on a negative side that there could be increased crime related to a marijuana trade here in Colorado. There could be kids that get marijuana when they shouldn't be getting marijuana. What do you say to a number of people who are listening to this right now that are worried about what this means for Colorado?
This will decrease crime because it takes marijuana out of the criminal element and puts it into a regulated structure, just like alcohol. If you think alcohol prohibition was a success, if you think that was a good government policy, then you probably voted no on Amendment 64. Luckily, the majority rules, and the majority of Coloradans believe that alcohol prohibition was a failure, and they believe marijuana prohibition was a failure. So this is gonna decrease kids' access to marijuana because it puts it in regulated stores.
Speaking with Rob Corey, noted attorney here in town, represents a lot of marijuana issues. Do you expect, I've been asking this question all night, do you expect the federal government to take a hands-off approach when it comes to Colorado's legalization?
I do, because the federal government cares about public opinion. In fact, public opinion is the only thing that stopped the federal government from decimating our medical marijuana industry, which is flourishing in Colorado. There are hundreds of stores. There are thousands of Coloradans who right now, every day, buy marijuana and sell marijuana legally. So the federal government has left us alone, and the only reason they've left us alone is because of public opinion. Now here, with Amendment 64 passing pretty significantly, the federal government has a strong message from the voters and the taxpayers and the people that the federal government say they work for that back off, leave us alone, and concentrate on global terrorism, organized crime, serious issues that we call on our federal government to do, and not an assault on a harmless plant that is a good thing for many people. So this is a strong message to the federal government, and I expect the federal government will heed the overwhelming wishes of Colorado voters and leave us alone.
Rob Corey, thanks very much for joining us. We'll see if he is in fact correct. There's been a number of people that openly worry about what the federal government reaction might be in all of this, the U.S. Attorney's Office, for a number of months here in the state of Colorado, has specifically targeted medical marijuana dispensaries that have grown too close to schools. Remains to be seen if the U.S. Attorney or the State Attorney General, for that matter, John Suthers, who has been very anti-marijuana in the state, will be willing to defend all of this. But for now, the people, the supporters of Amendment 64, remain very upbeat about this reaction, this vote that they saw, historic vote that they saw in Colorado tonight. Brandon, back to you.
All right. Hey, thanks, Chris. And yeah, as Chris points out, it just brings up a very interesting next chapter in sort of this fight between Colorado and the federal government over marijuana. He was just alluding to some of the battles that have been waged over medical marijuana, but I think the sense is that, you know, federal authorities would probably treat recreational use a lot differently.
You know, the interesting thing is that while Colorado voters have backed medical marijuana and now recreational marijuana, quite often when you give them a vote on actual dispensaries in their communities or in their neighborhoods, they come out against it. So that it's sort of it's interesting that at a more idealistic and general level they have come out in favor of it, but again, when it gets very close to their homes, they're concerned about it. And obviously there'll be, I think that as this is implemented, the impact it has on driving, as it has on schools, the general sort of law enforcement behavior that takes place, I think will influence people as they think about it. While it is passed, I think it's still not. I think the public was taking a chance here. We'll see how it works out.
Yeah, and I want to just share that we've gotten a statement from No on 64, the campaign director Roger Sherman, saying, "We knew all along this was an uphill battle against a well-funded national movement." Goes on to thank some of the state officials and local officials who assisted in opposing Amendment 64. So seems to be a concession on their part that they know this isn't going their way.
That's right. I would point out that as it was pointed out in the interviews, that there were a lot of people came out against this. A lot of editorial pages, a lot of cities. The governor, for example, but without money, or without the opposition having $1 or $2 million to fight it, it became almost impossible to defeat it.